So, hello everyone. Today we have a special session here. Let's welcome to a wonderful guest. Let's start from the one far away from UK. His name is Jeremy Nicholls. Jeremy is the founder of Social Value International. He has bring this social value and the social return on investment concept to the whole world, and get a lot of different fields attention and try to focus on this social value to the impact to our society. And today we are very honored to invite him to talk about the social innovation impact, the point of view. And the middle one is from Taiwan's National Central University professor, Jian Wenshen. He is, hello, let's say hello to Professor Chen as well. He is specializing the social enterprises and also a lot of technology application innovation. And he's also teaching in the business administration department. So these two gentlemen has been live far together, but they all have the same dream or the same value to bring the whole society become a more friendly and a more positive to our future offspring. So today we are very honored to invite them to have this kind of special event and hope to give us our insight toward our future life. So let me start with asking Jeremy, why do you think social value is important, and what's the social value actually means to you?
I think we live in a world with an economic system that over the last 200 years has been extremely successful in increasing global domestic product, to GDP as a measure. You go back only a couple of hundred years ago, and the average GDP per head is low, very low, and it has massively increased to around, I think, probably say $20,000 a year per head now. So that system has been extremely successful in raising living standards around the world. But it has become increasingly obvious, I think now, that has come at a huge cost. It has come at a massive cost to the environment, as we are all now in a world we're facing climate change. I think it has come at an increasing level of inequality between rich and poor. The concentration of wealth has moved now to, I think, something like the top 1% own 51% of wealth globally. And that is causing considerable disruptions in our social fabric now. COVID, I think, the experience of the last couple of years has only highlighted the fact that rich countries have been able to vaccinate at faster rates than poor countries. And so the reason that we started this journey and got involved in that was, although some years ago now, was exactly the same, a concern and a fear that unless society was able to become more equitable and was able to create an economy which was not so dependent on destroying the natural ecosystem around it, we were all going to be facing a complete meltdown. And so it wasn't so much as we wanted to improve things as we wanted to stop things falling off a cliff. And now we called that social value because we wanted a society where value was driven by what was important to people in society. And our current economic system drives value by what is important to private investors seeking private financial returns, which seems a fairly strange way of organizing a society. So these words are all the same, really, whether you talk about social value or well-being or sustainability or impact, it's the same thing. People, these words get bandied around and we all get a bit confused, but all of us are talking about a world which is much more equitable and where people have the capacity to fulfill their lives in rewarding and rich ways. And we do not undermine the ability of future generations to live on the planet.
Yeah. So how about Professor Shen? Do you have any comments adding, or why do you think that you spend so many efforts to bring this social value in Taiwan? Why do you think is important for Taiwan's society today?
Okay. Actually, if you don't know my training background, actually I'm not from social science. I actually more from the engineering school. So I think entering the social value or social enterprise domain actually is unexpected. But I feel very, I don't know how to say that. I feel very, very good about have this opportunity to know more about this trend or this development, because as you know, I have two centers at NCU, and one is social enterprise, social business center. Another one is Center for Media and Social Impact. So both centers actually are more like we are doing research and also training, education, especially for college students. For example, about how to become a social entrepreneur, of course, and from the UNIS Social Business Center, of course. So for that kind of training, I think before I know Social Value International or SROI, I think we only focus on the business model. But I think I'm a latecomer. I have to say. I think I get acquainted about social value measurement starting, I think, in 2017. I think only a few years ago, when I joined the workshop led by Jeremy. Okay, so this is my first time, learning social value measurement. And after that, I think I'm devoting this domain for years, because I think, of course, as a social entrepreneur, it's very difficult for me to imagine you don't understand how to manage such kind of things if you are a social entrepreneur. Because just like because I'm from the engineering background, as an engineer, industrial engineer, how can you? It's impossible you don't measure your factory performance, because if you don't know, if you don't measure or manage, then you cannot keep improving your factory performance. So to me, social value measurement is more like the quality control or so-called quality control approach for social intervention. So to find, you can use different kind of approach, of course, but the key is to deliver the impact you expected, and also try to maximize. Because if you don't know how to measure your social impact delivered from your social enterprise, or even your social intervention project, then how you are going to keep improving? Yeah, so this is the reason why I think after I attend Jeremy's workshop, I realized it's very important for social entrepreneurs. So after that, I integrate such kind of training into my credit program, or, for example, I have national competition unit prize, and we also have this kind of training into our curriculum, or in the university's credit program. Yeah, so this is my idea. Okay.
Quite a nice coincidence. Yeah. But from that's from the social enterprises or social value. I think social value, the term has been existed for so many years. But from, like, I know Jeremy used to be a certified accountant who always try to maximize your customer, or your if it was enterprises, maximize your shareholders' profit, which is monetized profit. And there is never you have enough money. Okay, so Why you will like to bring this kind of concept to maximize our unmonetized money? I think in today, like in Taiwan as well, people always want to make more money because we want to have better quality of life. You think you have more money, that means you can have better quality of life. But do you think, how do you think the acceptance or the people value this social value terms?
That's exactly the point, I think, isn't it? We think that if we have more money, our quality of life goes up. There was some recent research done in the States with millionaires, billionaires, multi-billionaires, and whatever the next level is. And each level said that they would not be happy until they got to the next level. So it didn't matter how much money you had. So in fact, and then there's plenty of other research which shows that above a certain amount of money, although your well-being, if you want, does continue to go up, there's massive diminishing returns. So it goes up a lot to start with, but at a certain point, every bit of extra dollar that you earn has an increasingly small effect on your well-being. It actually doesn't make any difference. There's only so much, you have so many cars you can own, so many houses you can have, etc. So we have this weird system where the purpose of money is to increase people's well-being, but above a certain point, it doesn't really. And that this is the kind of driver then for this levels of inequality. At the same time, we have a society where we still have 800 million people on less than $1 a day. It's pretty much the same absolute number as was the case in the late 19th century. So, despite the fact that we've increased the proportion of people in the middle class group, if you think about absolute numbers, we've gone from a world with a couple of billion to a world with 8 billion people, and we've got the same number of very, very poor people. So we've not been able to give a vast number of people an opportunity to even get to a level of financial income, which would be something we would all expect as a norm. If we were to say, what kind of lifestyle should we expect everyone to be able to have, it would be considerably higher than the one that billions of people live on. So we've got this weird thing. We're not getting that money to a vast number of people who do need it to increase their well-being, at the same time as a lot of us are generating levels of income above what we need to really affect our well-being. But what we are doing is having a significant negative impact on the environment. About 50% of the carbon impact is generated by the 10% richest people in the world. And I think that probably includes Mark, actually, in that 10%. It certainly includes me. If you look at that wealth inequality, we are in that group. And if you look at some of the countries which have got a particular good mix, if you want, of climate, low carbon, low material usage, high life expectancy, high education, and a reasonable amount of money, you find countries like Costa Rica at the top of that list. It's not your normal expected. So we've got an economic system, as we said, which is not really generating global well-being, really. And we surely need to shift it. And unless we start recognizing the value of the other parts of our lives as individuals, so that we don't keep racing for more money, and unless we start recognizing the distribution of that value in our world, then we're not going to change anything. And I've always argued really that to make us recognize those things, we need to use the same language for those things as is used when we're talking about money. So we do, as you said, amortizing, and we use a way of valuing that well-being, valuing that sustainability, because we have argued that if we don't do that, it will not be treated as important as the actual money, and we will continue to make decisions and design societies which chase more and more wealth all the time, and all of us. And so how do we get to that point where you've got enough and you stop chasing money and you start chasing other things, start chasing your relationships and your friendships and the things which do generate and are evidenced as generating a long and satisfied life.
Yeah. Professor Shen, you want to add some more comments on that? As I think
okay,
in the college, also in the university, as a major of business administration, the biggest mission is to make money. From what I learned 20 years ago, I don't know about today's.
Yeah, but I think I have to, change. I cannot say change students' minds. I just want to make students understand. Now we have different value. We have different. It's a different world, and we want to reduce the inequality. So to reduce the inequality, to solve the social problem, we need to use different mindset, not just making money, but also deliver impact. So of course, you want to deliver impact, then understand how to measure and manage social value. Very important. So that reason why I think starting from this year, probably we are going to have a new credit program at NCU called Impact Management and Measurement Credit Program here. So probably I will ask Jeremy as one of my advisor, to think about what kind of course should be added, or in this.
I'd be very happy to do that.
Yes.
Great.
Good.
So in both of your point of view, if who should be taking more responsibility for change the mindset? Should be the government side or should be the enterprise today itself? Because we know more of enterprise, they care about the corporate social responsibility, the CSR, or even in university, they are developing the USR, University Social Responsibility, or from the nonprofit side, the NGO or the NPO nonprofit, like my foundation we are working on, who should play more of this important role, or the individual? Because since it's the measurement and the impact is something like each individual, they are one of it. They suffering or they are enduring the inequity, but they cannot change it.
Well, you said it, didn't you? It's you've had 20 years of being taught how to make money. Yeah, I think enterprises get a bit of a hard story and are kind of held responsible. And obviously, they are organizations that need to operate within the social norms and the legal requirements. And most of them do. And obviously, there are exceptions because we're a planet of human beings and we're not all perfect. But I mean, to hold business responsible when businesses are operating within a legal framework, within a way of measuring value, which has been given to them by society, is a bit missing the point, I think. It's down to both our society at a political level to say, well, we should be accounting for value in a different way. So that is a public policy issue. And it's down to, therefore, to filter that through. You can't pick one bit. We need an education system which reflects that so that we're not all, being taught how to make money. And whenever I speak to business school students and say, do you want to make money? They'll go, yeah. Do you want to make money if as a result of that money, it creates deforestation, there is child labor, there is trafficking? And they go, no, we don't want to make money if that's what happens as well. But we have an economic system that doesn't take account of what happens as well. So it's, human beings obviously, I think, much better motivated and would much rather have something which looks like that. But we have an economic system that doesn't. So the responsibility is to all of us to recognize that we can change that way of measuring value as a society, if we want to. And then at some point, the ability to encourage and persuade the politicians as a policy issue to make changes in the regulations, I think, in the end.
Yeah, like we're talking about with the world is aging now. So, and there is another, people are talking about the invisible economic power, which especially from older adults, they do a lot of volunteering. Like in Taiwan, we see volunteers, majority are older adults because they are retired, they may have more time, and they are willing to give their own contribution. So you see in Taiwan's temple, hospital, or a lot of museums are full of this 50 plus or 60 plus volunteer, often at home. a lot of older adults are taking care of another older adults, or taking care of their grandchildren or their kids. And this kind of things, do you think that this kind of impact should be considered, or should be major, or how should we see the aging societies coming? As ageism also another issue in the whole world now, and it has been different negative social value.
There's a lot in there, and I don't think we've got very much time left to discuss it. So I'll just pick two bits. One is we have an accounting system which doesn't consider its consequences on the world, or an economic system, and we have an economic system which doesn't fully consider what it is dependent on in creating that wealth. And part of that it's dependent on is the natural environmental systems that we have, the natural ecosystem, but it's also dependent on a huge quantity of unpaid labor, mainly by women, mainly in care, but in agriculture throughout the world. There's this huge dependency on not paying people. Now, in some sectors of that, we're now saying, well, there's volunteer time, but I think that hides, if we're not careful, this huge unpaid labor force, whether, food care, food childcare, in the domestic environment. And I think that one of the risks that we have of an increasingly aging society at the same time as economic pressure is the ability for society to pay for that care. Now, if we had an economic system that recognized it was dependent on that care, that would be factored into how we think about profitability, and it would be much better valued. But because we have one that doesn't, we find it hard to find the money to spend or pay for care as a government, but we're not so bad finding the money to pay for other things that we think are important. So that's because of that mismatch in value. But the consequence I worry about is that as the pressure on care becomes higher, and as the pressure on budgets becomes harder, that care responsibility will fall back onto women, and that some of the gains that have been made in gender equality over the last few years, despite the fact that we've got a huge way to go still to get there, will be reversed. And I think that will be particularly the case for people at that lower end of the income distribution as well. Yeah. So we will have a double pressure on relatively low paid people, expected now to increase the amount of care that suddenly happens at a family level, which will reinforce inequality even further than it is at the moment. It sounds a bit pessimistic, but I suppose it is, but it is fixable. But again, it goes back to this question that we need to rethink what is of value. We need to recognize the value that people are contributing to our society more effectively. Mm. I say people, I mainly mean women in that case. Yeah.
About Professor Chen, you want to add some more comments?
Yes,
or the
I think
aging society issues we're facing, or
yes, I think we should maybe examine the basis for individual and the societal attitude toward older people, older adults, and try to develop some effective strategy to improve them. For example, older people usually may hold negative attitude about their aging, or be target of so-called negative stereotype and discrimination. So I think we should support, as academia, I think we should support research to explore the cause of this negative attitude and think about develop some strategy to counter them with behavioral, community, and other social interventions. And besides, I think we should also continue research on the measurement of subjective well-being in a policy-relevant framework. For example, measurement of subjective and psychological well-being in population-based survey and in intervention study. So we can understand how older adults' life are affected by major challenges of aging, including, for example, in retirement, caregiving, and living with disability, this kind of things. And for ensuring that intervention promote not only for better health, but also better quality of life at older age. Okay.
Okay. So I'm coming to the last question to both of you. And as we are facing, I think this is a very unplanned and unexpected world, like the COVID-19 hit the whole world and changed the whole world's attitude, working behavior. So we are doing like a Zoom video conferencing now. We cannot think of doing this 10 years ago. And all the technology are ready, but all the people's social distancing are different now, are changing now. And for the youth today, so they are facing such a competitive world. They have a lot of environmental issue and health issue, well-being issue. And what do you think if you give any advice to the current youth? And how do they should face this kind of society today?
And I think these massive events that happen in society, like COVID, have consequences, and some of them will be massively negative, and some of them potentially positive. And there will be many of us will not travel as much as we used to, and all that is no doubt a good thing. What the balance of that, we don't know what's going to turn up, but it will also reinforce the underlying trends. And one of the underlying trends, I think, has been an increasing individualism over and above a perspective of society. And I think the problem with Zoom and our meetings is that we just don't spend as much time with each other as human beings as we were. And there's a risk that reinforces a kind of isolationism, and that's a worry if it exacerbates a kind of underlying trend of a kind of individualistic society where we think about ourselves. And some of the things, the stories we read about vaccinations, the question of whether we should vaccinate or not is so often phrased in, from my point of view, should I vaccinate or not? And not from the point of view of the wider society of which I'm a part, should I vaccinate or not? Which would become a different answer. So we'll see. And we'll hope that some of the potential positives we haven't seen yet will outweigh some of the definite negatives that we are seeing. I'm afraid, however, I'm going to have to leave you and run to another Zoom call. How ironic.
Oh, okay, good. So probably I don't need to add more comment, I think, because I think now you do everything online. So for the youth, I don't think you don't have any excuse, say, oh, you don't have time to learn. You can learn every hour, like me, work every minute. Okay.
It's not good for your well-being, Mark, the amount you work.
Oh yeah. It's based on I love to work, but we still have to work-life balance. Yeah. So anyway, I think time is running out. So Wai, so you want to close?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much for Jeremy, and thank you very much for Professor Shen to give us as an opportunity to hear about your precious opinion about social innovation, also our future attitude, and hope we can see you soon in real life or in Taiwan, or maybe another time in another Zoom meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you ever so much. Take care all.
Okay.
Bye now.
Okay. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Bye.